Poetry, as I'm sure you all know, right, uses artistic and rhythmic language to evoke meanings that are sometimes in addition to the obvious meanings and sometimes instead of the obvious meaning of things. Poetry is an ancient form of literature, right? I'm sure if we remember back to our high school education, perhaps even middle school education, if we can think back that far, we have all read long-form poetry, right? Like Homer's Odyssey. We have read rhythmic poems, right? Like Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day by Shakespeare, right? We remember those things. If you don't remember, I'm going to say it happened, whether you remember it or not. Maybe you remember Dickinson, right? She says, hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without words and never stops at all. Do you remember learning that one? Now, the book of Psalms are poems that were used in the context of worship. The whole book of Psalms is our ancient hymnal. This is what our ancestors sang. These are their songs. And so today is the introduction to a series on the Psalms that we'll be doing for the next several weeks. The central image of this psalm is a tree, if you haven't caught the theme yet for the day. Now, a tree is not a unique symbol, right? If you think that trees are actually common symbols for poetry. Poets like this symbol. So I found a few poems, even from my favorite poets this morning, that I thought I would share. The first is called The Sycamore by Wendell Berry. In the place that is my own place, whose earth I am shaped in and must bear, there is an old tree growing, a great sycamore, that is a wondrous healer of itself. Fences have been tied to it and nails driven into it. Hacks and whittles cut in it, the lightning has burned it. There is no year it has flourished in that has not harmed it. There is a hollow in it that is in its depth, though its living brims whitely at the lips of the darkness and flows outward. Over all its scars has come the seamless white of the bark. It bears the gnarls of its history healed over. It has risen to a strange perfection in the warp and bending of its long growth. It has gathered all accidents into its purpose. It has become the intention and radiance of its dark face. It is a fact sublime, mystical, and unassailable. In all the country there is no one like it. I recognize it in principle and dwelling, the same as itself and greater, that I would be ruled by. I see that it stands in its place and feeds upon it, and is fed upon, and is native and maker. So in this one he's speaking of the resilience of a tree, the ability for a tree to grow, to find its own nourishment, even when it's been chipped away by people whittling on it or by a fence driven into it. He's pointing to the individual nature also of this one tree that he's looking at. And here's one entitled, When I Am Among the Trees by Mary Oliver. She says, when I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, stay a while. The light flows from their branches. And they call again, it's simple, they say, and you too have come into this world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light and to shine. So in this one, she's looking at the tree as a symbol of hope, which she was lacking when she wrote the poem. She's hearing the tree, I don't know if you've heard it, actually inviting her to find this hope that the tree had. And the tree says you can do that by staying in the woods, by lingering in the woods. The tree tells her, be easy, be filled. One last one. I found this gem by Christian Wyman. If you don't know him, he's fantastic. And it's entitled Hard Night. What words or harder gift does the light require of me, carving from the dark this difficult tree? What place or farther peace do I almost see emerging from the night and heart of me? The sky whitens, goes on and on. Fields wrinkle into rows of cotton, go on and on. Night, like a fling of crows, disperses and is gone. What song, what home, what calm or one clarity can I not quite come to, never quite see? This field, this sky, this tree. So now Wyman is searching to understand something, and it seems that he is wondering whether he would sooner find the answer to his question as he would understand a field or a sky or a tree. So just in these three poems, we've heard people use the tree as an image of something resilient, something self-sustaining, something that beckons us to a deeper life, something that reminds us that not everything is understandable. And so now let's look at this poem in Psalm 1. I'm going to read from the New Living Translation. The psalmist says, "Oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join in with mockers. But they delight in the law of the Lord, meditating on it day and night. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit each season. Their leaves never wither, and they prosper in all they do. But not the wicked. They are like worthless chaff scattered by the wind. They will be condemned at the time of judgment. Sinners will have no place among the godly. For the Lord watches over the path of the godly, but the path of the wicked leads to destruction." That's Psalm 1. So this tree is the central image for the path of the godly, essentially. The tree is the central image, then, for all of the poems that follow in the Psalter. Right? Psalm 1 is the beginning, and it's meant to be an introduction for everything that follows. The tree is the people of Israel. The tree is our ancestors of faith. The tree is you and me. We are the tree. We are the ones planted by the stream of water that we have in our sanctuary today. Now, some take the path of the wicked, whose lives are characterized by sinfulness and judgment, is what it says. The psalmist is calling us to the path of the tree, to find our place by the river. The psalmist is also telling us that the words that follow in the collection of poems to come and songs to come are from those who took the path of the tree. All of these poems are given to you by others who took the path of the tree. These are their prayers and their thoughts and their encouragement, their praises, their laments, their worry, their thanksgiving. All of it's wrapped up. The people who follow the path of the tree. These are their words. These are their thoughts. And so how do we then take the path of the tree? I would say we start by being planted. And so enough of this literature-loving, artsy poetry stuff. What are some tangible ways, right? I figured at this point, like the peas, that I am one of those people. Never get to hear sermons like this. I'm going to go totally tangible on you for the rest of the sermon. What are ways that we can be planted by the river? How can we take the path of the tree? I think that there are 5 things within our control regarding our spiritual lives. There probably are more, but here's 5 that I know. 5 things I believe that you and I can do in order to plant ourselves on the path of the tree. The first, and it's going to be an acronym so you can remember it, the first will start with the letter P, and it's prayer. Right? So talking to God is essential along this path. Right? And while we can pray for one another, our own spiritual lives are grown when we attempt to pray ourselves, not just in church, when we are alone. No one else can do that for you. We can only do that for ourselves. Prayer is a discipline. Prayer is not a once-a-week thing. Only you and I can set aside time in our day to pray. No one else can do that for us. So the first thing we can do to be planted is prayer. The second thing we can do is listen. We can control what we let into our mind to a large degree. That doesn't mean we can walk away necessarily when someone's talking to us. But we can control what kind of news we watch, what kind of TV shows we watch, what kind of music we listen to. We can control, for a lot, what kind of conversations we linger in. In the same way that the food we choose to eat determines how our bodies grow, that which we let into our mind determines how our spiritual life grows. So we can let into our mind whatever spiritual food we want. We control what we listen to. So the second thing we can do to be planted on the path of the tree is to listen. The second thing is air, right? In order for plants to grow in the soil needs to be aerated, which I'm sure a lot of us have done just recently in our homes. I know that I did. I had to repot a bunch of things, and I had to make sure some plants get settled. Gravity is a real thing, right? So the soil gets matted down. What's the other word? Dense, right? And then there's no room for the roots to move around, right? So in order for plants to grow, there has to be elbow room for their roots to spread out. Now, our culture doesn't really value elbow room that much. If you think about it, we don't think about spreading out our time or our money or our resources. We think about consolidating everything, right? We want to get the most out of the least amount of time and effort. But our spiritual life doesn't work that way. In order for us to grow spiritually, we have to give ourselves space. Space, so that not every minute of our day is planned. Not everything that we're doing is filled with listening to other people and other things, right? We need some extra time to be alone, some time to read the kind of things we want to read to fill our mind with. We need to listen to music, if that's what works for you, or to have lengthy conversations with the people with whom you need to have lengthy conversations to grow your spiritual lives. Which brings me to the next thing that we are in control of, our neighborhood. And by that I mean, we may not control who is in our family, we all understand that, but we do control who we spend time with. And so an important component to spiritual growth is choosing the right people to spend time with. We can choose to surround ourselves with other people who also want to be healthy, fruitful, spiritual people. You can do that. We are all in control of that, right? We don't have... I'm seeing you shaking. You know, we're all there, right? There's plenty of people in my life that suck me dry, and then there are people who feed me, right? So you have that too, and I'm telling you, would you start hanging out with the people who feed you, and would you decrease the amount of time of the people who suck the life out of you, right? It's the nicest way I really know how to say it this morning. I'm sure if I had written that, it would have come out nice, more professional. Okay. If we want to be people who are planted like the tree, then we need to be around other people who also want to be planted like a tree. Okay? So the first one is prayer. The second one is what we listen to. The third one is have enough air, space around us for our roots to grow. And the third one is our neighborhood, who we hang with. The last one is our thought life. Like being judicious with who we listen to or what we listen to. Controlling our thoughts are a huge key to being planted solidly like a tree. And although it's hard, we actually can control our thought life. It takes work. It takes a lot of work. We all know that our minds will tell us all kinds of things. Our minds will engage us in negative talk about ourselves, about our bodies, about our jobs, about our families, right? Our mind will go for hours if we let it. You actually can control that. That is not outside your control. Is it hard? Yeah. It's like being with a small child who wants candy, wants candy, wants candy. You have to just keep deflecting, right? Is that the right word, right? No, let's play. Okay, let's draw. Okay, I'm not giving you candy. At some point, you just say, I'm not listening to that. I'm not listening to the self-talk, right? So we control, I'm sure I can't be the only ones, right, that have conversations, right? Or how about when we replay conversations in our head that went badly for days? I think, okay, I'll sleep on it and it'll go away in the morning, and it's still there, right? Or an email that you get. Oh my gosh, and then it's in print, so you have to figure out, do I delete it and stop thinking about it? If I delete it, will I stop thinking about it? I'm sure I'm not the only one who fixates on a problem that I don't know how to solve yet. I sleep on it, I don't know how to problem. I sleep on it, right? I can control those thoughts. If I don't have an answer, stop thinking about it for now. I can control those thoughts, so can you. We don't have to pay attention to everything our mind says, and I would like to say that just because your mind says it doesn't mean it's true. Right? You guys know that. We don't have to pay attention to what we don't want to pay attention to. And so we can control praying, we can control what we listen to, we can control the air and the space we give ourselves, we can control our spiritual neighborhood, and we can control our thoughts. That's the path of the tree. Might we be planted like a tree. Amen.